Hi everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada, and you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. I'm so excited to be here for this virtual launch for the January to April mini catalog. Gosh, there's so many amazing products in the new catalog, and what makes it doubly special is that it's celebration, which means you get free product when you purchase product from the new catalog, and depending on where you live in the world, that will vary. So I'm not going to tell you how much it is because again, it will vary based on the country you live in. But you get free product when you purchase products from the mini catalog. So today I'm going to show you the Queen Bee bundle. So I saw this stamp set in the new catalog when I was at Onstage in Vienna in November, and I immediately fell in love with it. And it was really special to be able to see the creator or the designer of this stamp set actually stamped with it. So Laura Milliken is a demonstrator from the United States who actually designed this stamp set. She earned or sold $1 million in product, and as part of that reward for that, she was able to design this stamp set. And I think her team name is something to do with bees, which is why this was obviously a choice for her. So it was so fun to see what she created with it, because she clearly had some ideas in mind when she did the design. All right, let me switch over to my desktop and show you the bundle. All right, so this is the bundle. It's a rubber stamp or cling mount stamp. It's got 12 images, and so some sentiments. You can always combine it with other stamp sets with different sentiments if you're don't want birthday or to combine these. This is such a pretty image with the large bee. Can you see the detail on those wings and on the body of the bee? Just so pretty. Some splatter. This middle stamp set is words with splatter around it. It kind of reminds me of the Time Worn Type embossing folder, which is one of my favorites. Some flowers, and then a bunch of other images. And then, of course, you have the dies that go with it. So Stampin' Up! Now calls the dies the same as the stamp set name. So it's called Queen Bee Stamp Set, and these are the Queen Bee dies. You have the dies to cut out. Most of these images that are here, a label for the words, and then some other dies that cut out, the detailed little bee, the hive, a label. It's really pretty. And then this, what will make a great wreath, but stems. And then these wings that are detailed, if I can get them, and then that fit over top of the big bee. Just a really nice bundle. Okay, so let me show you my card. So I seem to be in a crushed curry and black mood. And so I've stamped, actually I didn't, I cut out the bee, cut out the wings, cut out some of the hive pieces, the sentiment, and then I've used the hive embossing folder and I've colored it. And I'm going to show you that. There's a couple of ways to do that. This chevron piece is cut out using the basic border dies. There's a chevron, so I just cut a piece that went behind that. Some linen thread and some of the black matte dots. So I think this is a really pretty card. Hopefully you do too. So let me first of all show you this technique using an embossing folder. So again, this is the hive embossing folder. It's a little yellow. I need to clean it off. To create you can create two different effects with this. So on my card, I've got the kind of debossed being colored. So it's more coloring than if you do the other way. And so the way I did that is different. So it depends on which side you ink up your embossing folder. So the way you do this is to ink up your embossing folder before you've run it through your embossing machine, Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So on this one, which is the version I used on my card, I inked up the side that's got the logo on it. And you can kind of feel, but if you're not sure what it's going to look like, I always test it to see, because sometimes when I started this, I really thought I was going to use it where you had the coloring around the kind of hive. And when I actually did the other side, I kind of liked this effect better. So I inked up these are the raised bits. And so that's depending on which side you ink up, you will get the different effect. This one, if you feel it, you've got the, you can feel the kind of outside of the hive part, and that's how I got the effect of around it. So I'm going to ink this up. Just take your your embossing folder, open it up, and then ink it up using your stamp pad, and then just lay a piece. I tend to do a bigger piece than what I want to use, so this is cut 4 by 5 1/4. And then I just put it in my embossing folder, and then bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Now this is a hybrid, or not a hybrid, a 3D embossing folder. So you use platform 1 and 4, and you just run this through. And when you take it out, you can see it's not perfect, but I kind of like the effect. So if I had done it on the other side, not the side with the logo on it, I would have ended up with this effect where clearly you get more ink the way I've done it. But like I said, do it the way you try both and see which way you like. Okay. So I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer here, my card and my supplies. So just to show you the supplies you need for the card. So I've got a piece of crushed curry that is cut 5 inches, sorry, 5.5 by 8.5. And I'm going to score it at 4 1/4. Now in the tutorial that you can get with all the projects from this launch, it will have both the imperial and metric measurements. So basically, if you are anywhere but North America, well, if you're anywhere, this is a half of a piece of cardstock, regardless of where you are in the world. Okay, so then I've cut a piece of basic black, and this is cut 4 inches by 5 1/4, and I'm just going to adhere this to the card base. Now I always use liquid glue. You can use whatever your favorite adhesive is, but I find the liquid glue just is a little bit more forgiving. Okay, so now I've got a piece of crushed curry, and I believe this is cut, just measuring it, 3 inches by 4 5/8. So that's going to go on there. I've already gone ahead and cut out, it's a little crooked, but that's okay, I'll adhere it straight. I've cut out a piece of basic black using the chevron die from the basic borders. So I'm going to just take and adhere, it's not to that piece. I want to adhere it to this piece. Now, I need to cut this down to the size I want. So my piece of crushed curry again was 4 5/8 by, oh, actually 3. What is it? 3. So I'm going to trim this just because I've got some white. So that's why I always make my basic white card base bigger so that I can trim it down. So this is 3 inches. I'm just going to trim it. I want it 1/8 of an inch smaller all around. So we'll just trim that off. And then I said my length was 4 5/8. So I'm going to make this 4 1/2. Sorry for my gimpy arm. I fell and broke my wrist the other day. Luckily, it's not very painful, just a little bit awkward. Okay, so there we go. Actually, I need to trim this a little bit smaller because I'm going to put my, what is this? This is actually supposed to be 2.5 inches wide because I'm going to put my piece of chevron border along that side. All right, so there we just trim that. So this piece is actually 2.5 by 4.5. And now I can take and just put some glue. You can use whatever you want to do. I'm going to grab my silicone mat. My piece is a little longer than it needs, but that was the width of the paper that I have, and I'm just going to line it up along that edge. And once the glue has set, we will just take and trim off the excess. Wiggle. Okay, there we go. Now, this piece can now go on to here. I like to use liquid glue when I've got an embossed piece. It just seems to hold better. And then I think it gets into all the kind of nooks and crannies. There we go. And then this is just going to adhere on to the front of my card. Like that. Okay, so that's kind of the most time consuming of the effort to put this card together. So I've gone ahead and done some die cutting, just because that's the part I kind of struggle with a little bit with my arm. So I thought I'd get that done in advance. So I've die cut this large V out, and then I die cut these wings. I just have to poke out the detail, the little bits. You could use the brush end on your take your pick, or I just find it easy to just kind of poke out. Sometimes if you've run it through a couple of times, they come out really easily. Like this is coming out easily, but okay. So I'm going to take just a dot of glue and put on the middle of this. That's probably too much. I want this to be free floating, so I just want to put it in the middle, and then I'm going to pull these wings out once that glue has set. So while that's setting, I'm going to take some linen thread, and I just know this is, I'm going to wrap this around. We'll see how this goes. Wrap it around a couple of times. And then when you pull it off the palm of your hand, so let's try that again. When you pull it off the palm of your hand, pinch it, she says, pinch it together like that, hold it, and then I always just put some Stampin' Seal right kind of in the middle of where I want this to go and press it down. And then if you want to get these ends, just pull them into the middle. Okay, so there we go. And now I'm going to use some black dimensionals, because I've got black cardstock. I'm just putting 2 down the middle of the body, because even the body is kind of free floating like that. Kind of just putting that over so that you can see the thread underneath. And I'm just going to then lift up these wings a little bit so they're raised. Okay, now you can use adhesive sheets. Look at how my yellow fingers. If you think about it, before you cut out these little hives pieces, use adhesive sheets. I have got something stuck to a finger here. And then you don't have to fuss with the glue, because these are pretty narrow or thin little pieces. But I'm just going to take and just put a little bit of glue around each of them. The glue dries clear, so it won't show even if you've got a little bit of excess glue. So we're just going to put those just to give it some detail. Okay, now the last bit I want is to do, at least for the front of the card, is I want to stamp my sentiment, and I'm going to stamp the happy. Just stamping. I'm going to fussy cut this out using, I shouldn't have rocked that, but because I'm fussy cutting, it doesn't really matter that I've got a halo. I'm going to cut that off. if it bothered me and if it was going to matter, I would just turn over my cardstock and restamp it. So I'm just going to take and fussy cut around my sentiment pieces. You could use a punch. You could use a die if you wanted to. You could use the label die that is in the die set. But if you follow me, you know that I often just fussy cut. Sometimes I will fussy cut around, but because these are block letters, the rectangle works best. And so I've just got my happy birthday. Now I'm going to use black because I have it out here. Just a couple of dimensionals on the happy, which is wider than the birthday. So I'm going to use the mini dimensionals on the birthday just because it's a little narrower. I don't want them to show. Oops. There we go. Okay. And actually, I wonder, I've got this little hive piece a little lower than I wanted it to. Of course, there we go. Just pull it off. I have to re-glue that on. All right, so I'm just going to take and lightly kind of press that down. It's not fully in place. We'll get the happy in place first, and then there we go. That's not too bad. I want it just kind of over the edge on both of them. All right, that actually is enough glue. Okay, and then the last thing for the front of the card is these are the classic matte dots. So we're just going to take one of the large, one of the small, and another one of the large. And that will be the front of my card. So let's do, I've got a piece of basic white here. This looks like it's the wrong size, so let me trim it. I think I used the wrong size there we go. So this is cut 4 inches by 5 1/4, which will fit on the inside of my card. So I'm just going to stamp. Now this is the sentiment. I'm going to just make sure I've got it going the right way because there are words. So this is that sentiment with the splatter. And you know what I forgot to do, but I'm going to do it. I forgot to use that little splatter die or splatter stamp set on the front. So I'm going to do that. So this is the little tiny bee. Just want to make sure I've got it going the right way. So we're just going to take that and stamp. That'll be the inside of my card. But while I have the black open, I'm using Tuxedo Black, I'm just going to take and stamp this splatter just kind of randomly. If you think about it and do it beforehand, that's probably best, but this works too. There we go. Just add some splatter to the front of the card. And then this piece. I need some new glue. There we go. All right. So there is the card with the colored embossing, the double emboss, well, the colored embossing, inked up embossing pad. Now let me show you another card that I made. Again, like I said, I seem to be in a crushed curry and black mood. This one I stamped the bee image. I colored it with the Daffodil Delight. I've put a little heart that I cut out using that tiny little die, and I actually put a fair amount of Wink of Stella over top of that because I wanted it to glimmer. This is the black and white gingham ribbon, one of those little tiny bees. And on this one, I just embossed the crushed curry and I stamped over top of it. You might not be able to see it, that stamp that's got the words and the splatters on it, just to give it some detail. And then these are a little bit smaller than the classic matte dots or the black matte dots. These are the classic matte dots that come in multiple kind of neutral colors. I just pulled some of the black ones. So that's another card. I stamped the happy birthday on that label and cut it out. So there's a couple of options for you with this. And I know you can use other colors. I just kind of, like I said, I was in a crushed curry and black kind of mood when I did these cards. All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you're enjoying all of the presentations. Again, thank you so much to Stephanie for putting all of this together. If you have any questions, you're interested in anything, just reach out. If you're not sure how I put the card together and you want more details, just reach out to me. I'm happy to answer them. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Hope you have a great day. Bye.